Well, welcome back to another analysis behind the news. A number of things we could have talked about, but I'm going to confine them basically to two. One of them is the mass Mexican migrant wave is declared over. I know every one of you will be happy to know that. They even have a graph here from 1970 showing where it goes up and up and up until finally, since the last few years, it's starting to go back down. So basically they claim that about 870,000 people have come over from Mexico, and a million in that time frame have gone home. So we've actually got a negative flow in migration. There's a number of things about this that bother me particularly. First of all, how do they know exactly how many are coming across our borders? I know all of you have seen all the turnstiles every 100 yards along the border where anybody that's sneaking across our border has to turn those turnstiles as he's coming in so he gets counted. It's really ridiculous, isn't it? If they can't have control of our borders the way they're supposed to be, and they don't know how many are coming in, how can they give us a statistic saying the exact numbers? They cannot. We don't know how many are coming in. We know that it is abated to a certain degree, but I believe that a lot of these things relative to calming people's fears about influx from south of the border is because they want us to ignore it and not realize that the terrorist threat that we're hearing about relative to Syria is more acute from Mexico than it is from any Syrian refugees. And don't get me wrong, I'm not in favor of bringing all these migrants and refugees or whoever they are from wherever they are fleeing terrorism and dumping them down in every little burg from the East Coast to the West Coast. There are a number of reasons for that. It isn't simply terrorism itself. It is changing the society of those communities. Our country is based on a particular type of society. You start to change that society and you change our form of government. It's that simple. Now, I could explain a little bit more. Some of you probably want a little more explanation. But that's in essence the problem. However, getting back to Mexico, they don't talk about the videos that we've seen of long lines of Chinese, of individuals who've been coming in who obviously are not Mexicans, but they are swarthy and obviously are from Middle Eastern countries. We know that weapons are being brought across the border. All of these things adding up to the fact that we're going to have trouble at some time in the future as a result. But right now they want us to keep our eyes on whether the Syrian refugees are vetted or not. Well, no vetting goes on with the individuals that are infiltrating across our southern border. No vetting whatsoever. We're not sure whether they're all Mexican or not. And as I've just said, we do have video showing long lines of Chinese coming in and other things such as that. In fact, along the border, one of the signs that's there relative to emergency use for the telephone and with right next to the 5-gallon can of water put there by the federal government is in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Chinese. So we know a lot of these things are going on, but there's no turnstile to tell us how many are actually coming over. So to tell us on one hand that we know the number of people coming in and the number of people going out, and on the other hand, not really having any controls in many areas along our border and have no idea of how many are coming across, is ludicrous. So just what is going on? We know that we need to get control over the individuals coming into our country, simply because it's going to change our country if we do not. Regardless of any terrorist threat, it will change the United States because it will change society. Our country is based on a Judeo-Christian society. If you change that, we will no longer have the style of government that we have under the Constitution of the United States. Ultimately, these people vote. And if they're not assimilated, then you have real problems. And there are too many of them coming in to assimilate all at once. And many of them refuse to assimilate in Minneapolis and places like that, Detroit, those areas. They have their own schools. They are even being elected to the local government, trying to change the system even at that level. Another thing that cropped up over this last week is new Obamacare worries. Here's another one that says, biggest insurer may quit Obamacare in 1917. They say over 500,000 people might be forced to find another provider. They say that the nation's largest health insurer warned Thursday that it may pull out of the Obamacare exchanges after 2016. And of course, they're talking about United Health Group, which is the largest insurer in the United States. Now, they're probably not going to pull out. There's going to be ways to keep them in, of course, because Obamacare is necessary to the general scheme of things. We've already mentioned how immigration will change our society. And the same is true relative to health care, local police, and other institutions in the United States. They must be altered. They must be changed. They must be fabricated in order to comfortably merge the United States into their new world order. And Obamacare is an integral part of that. You cannot merge free enterprise with socialism. One or the two has to go. So in order to merge us, they have to socialize our medical care. And that's what Obamacare is all about. And so they will do anything to make sure that this system stays in place. Don't think that it's going to collapse of its own weight. They will do anything to do what they have to keep it. Now, who are they? I'm talking about the neocons, the rhinos, the Democrats, the socialists, whomever. Too often we hear from Republican candidates, repeal and replace, because they need that system to merge with these other nations, whether it's through the TPP, the TTIP, the North American Union. Any and all of those things come into play in the merger plan that they have. They want to ultimately merge the United States with these countries into a one world government. You can't merge the United States with these other countries unless you change the United States. It's virtually impossible to change all these other countries into a United States system, into the constitutional system that we have and have enjoyed for over 200 years. The liberty, the freedom, the rights that are protected, the limitation on government, that sort of thing, is non-existent in these other countries. And so they have to alter the United States to make the merger comfortable. And that's what they're doing through immigration, through health care, trying to consolidate local police into a national police department. All of these things fit that scheme. So when you hear a Republican candidate say, repeal and replace, let an alarm go off in your head. Wait a minute, why do we need a replacement? It wasn't that long ago we had no Obamacare at all. And everybody, I didn't see people marching in the streets demanding universal health care. It was foisted on us. And we can go back to a free enterprise system where everybody assumes the responsibility for themselves. They can go out and find some form of insurance on the market, so on and so forth. Maybe even none at all. But that doesn't mean that we have to particularly take care of them, for every little headache and sniffle that they get. But it is a real problem in the scheme of things, merging us into these other countries. Keep those things in mind when you think about these issues. How does that fit into the overall, the overview, if you will, of merging with these other countries? And so I don't think there's going to be any problem in the future with whether or not United stays in or doesn't stay in. The scheme is to get everybody involved. They'll do anything and everything they can to ensure that. With that, I think we'll stop this week and we'll see you next week.